right. Just a minute early, barely, but that's okay. Appreciate people hanging around. We're going to wait for the word to go out. It's just now 12 noon. And I appreciate folks coming in. Going to wait for our guest, Roseanne, to show up. And then we'll get her in here. Appreciate everybody. This is going to be an interview with Roseanne O'Driscoll. Once she gets here. And Roseanne's a pretty interesting lady. She's not quite finished her first month of carnivory, but she's an ex-vegan. And she's going to be the very first ex-vegan, or first vegan anything person I've ever spoken to. There's Roseanne. I sent her the request and waved at her, and here she comes. There she is with her new hair and everything. All right.
Perfect. Can you hear me? Because I actually don't have a mic or anything.
You sound just fine. Just speak clearly, and you're going to be fine. You sound great. Video's excellent. I thank you so much for coming on, Roseanne. Everybody, this is Roseanne O'Driscoll. She's from Ireland. She's a 31-year-old gal who's had quite an interesting health history in her 31 short years of walking this earth. And one of the things that really fascinates me about you, my lady, is you're 28 days into your own carnivorous journey.
Yeah.
And you are not just an ex-vegan, but you've had some other eating issues throughout your life. So you've been on a roller coaster.
Yeah, I like how you put it, a few eating issues. Yeah, it's been my entire life, unfortunately. Yeah, since I was about 8. So
since you were about 8.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and just give us, the 5-10 minute general outline of things, and then we'll start boring into specifics and different parts and see what we can flesh out to share with other people that they might find helpful.
Okay, if you don't understand anything, let me know, because I know there's the accent, and I'm from the country as well, so it's probably even that little bit harder to understand. Well, I started having eating issues when I was 8, so I was really overweight as a child, and I started just by doing different diets, all those things you see in the magazines. So cut your calories, do some walking, all that kind of stuff, and then you turn the page and there's a recipe for a cake. So they were just, I really dislike female magazines since then. But I did little things like tried all the diets. Then when I got that little bit older, I was hiding food. So my parents caught me and brought me to a doctor. But I was able to go, oh, I'm fine, kind of talk my way out of it. But just ever since then, it was always counting my calories, watching the food, making the meal plans, and always feeling shame if I ate something that wasn't on the plan, even if it was healthy. So it just got extreme. And when I was in my 20s, I got bullied the most. So you think you'd get bullied more in school, but I got bullied more when I went off to university. And then that's when anorexia kind of really took over. So I was exercising a couple of hours a day, only eating about 300 calories. And then once I finally decided to recover, the rule was you can eat as long as you train really hard. And then the next thing was the veganism came along, and I did that for 7 years. And then just towards the end, my whole body was giving up. I had inflammation, I was depressed, I was on antidepressants. I just cry most of the time and stay in bed and not want to go out. So social anxiety, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know what to do, but I finally started learning about fats in the brain. And I tried vegan keto, but that ruined my gut health. And then the last thing to do was introduce meat. And then I saw so much wonderful stuff in the carnivore community. I said I'd give it a go. And it's been the best thing ever. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell, without trying to sound too sad or anything like that. I'm good now. So that's it. And I'm off the antidepressants. So
There's so many positives in that little super ultra Reader's Digest version there. The couple of the highlights. Number one, at the very end, you're not on any medication.
No.
That is so huge. As somebody who was on psychiatric meds for over 20 some years, that right there is wonderful, that you're no longer having to take medicines.
Yeah, and
the side effects are horrible.
but that's the thing, the doctor and stuff were there to me, oh, you'll have no side effects. Like I was sleeping all the time. Like it stopped me crying, but I was like, I've got no energy. And she was like, it shouldn't affect your energy. And I was like, well, I can't even get out of, like I can't get out of bed because I have no energy rather than because I'm so sad I don't want to. So
Which medicine were you prescribed? Do you recall?
oh, it's like L-Pro. Oh, I can't pronounce it. It's just like 20 milligrams of an antidepressant. It wasn't a huge dose,
Uh-huh.
but I
Like
kind of I
Lexapro?
yeah,
Lexapro, that's it?
that's
Okay.
yeah, but like a cheaper kind of retail name that I can't.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
I don't remember the generic off the top of my head. Lexapro was the original name for that particular medication. I took that for a time, and yeah, it'll slow you down. It
Yeah.
slows
So,
me down
yeah. It's
significantly.
crazy. Yeah.
And like so many other meds, what I've experienced with all the meds is they would work for a while and then they would crap out. And when they would crap out, my mood would crash, and not even necessarily for a specific reason. It would just, chaos would ensue. And the meds just weren't effective anymore. But we can touch on some of that later on. You're such an interesting lady. You mentioned shame. That's such a big problem for so many people throughout, regardless of what all the specific details are. I mean, I remember, I was a jock growing up, but when I got sick and became obese, there was definitely a shame component to my experience, because I'd see my reflection as we walked past, a shop in town or something, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. That didn't look good at all. So did you experience that early on, or was it something that you experienced from the inside out, or was it something that you were teased and bullied that caused it to come about? Uh, we got disconnected. That's okay. It's going to happen. She's in Ireland. I'm in North Florida. I'm going to hope and pray she just joins us right back. I'm going to encourage her to. And this is to be expected. We're several thousand miles apart. And there's all sorts of things that could go wrong between here and there. I appreciate everybody coming in. I see Bows and Bells. I haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing well, my dear. NL, it's good to see you again. Appreciate you all coming back. We're going to wait for our guests to reconnect. And hopefully there's not been some big wind sweeper through her area and knock down a power line or anything. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. I'm having a spectacular weekend. Plenty of meat, plenty of water, a lot of good exercise. I started a new part-time job tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about that. And so for those who didn't catch my Saturday morning Out of the Norm Periscope, there won't be a Monday Periscope or an Instagram TV posted tomorrow. It'll be Tuesday through Saturday. And still waiting on Roseanne. We're going to give her a few minutes. Okay, we've got Martinez saying something, saying Carnivore healed psoriasis in her husband, attention problems in her kids. Well, that's beautiful. That's just awesome. It's so important. Someone says it's the awesome Irish butter that is congesting the Instagram live. She's just having connection trouble. She'll get here as soon as she can, I'm sure. She's not the type, I think, who's going to give up easily. But Martinez, thanks so much for sharing that. We find that at any age, literally any age, from 10 years old all the way up to 90 and above, that if we just give our bodies nutrition, it knows what to do with it. And when we eliminate the toxins and all the sugar and the inflammation causing the nightmarish carbs, our bodies start healing and we respond positively to it. In my own personal experience, I used to have cracked and dry skin on my elbows. My top of my bald head was a flaky mess. My ankles were cracked and red and just very uncomfortable. And all that's gone away just by eating meat and drinking water. Roseanne, we're still waiting on you, darling. Feel free to come back. Thank you so much to everybody who's coming by. Our guest, Roseanne O'Driscoll, we started off really strong and then she got disconnected. So I'm hoping she'll find her way back through the digital maze to reconnect. But if anybody has any questions while we're waiting on Roseanne, don't hesitate to ask if you have any carnivore questions or just any keto questions in general. A lot of people don't realize the carnivore way of eating is a ketogenic diet, because the purpose of eating a ketogenic diet is to burn fat for energy and creating ketones naturally, which we know our brain prefers for energy. And a physician put out today an article, and I posted it in my story, about our hearts prefer to burn ketones and fat for energy over sugar. And Elle's asking, what have I eaten today? I have had the usual. I've had my ground beef, my 90-10 ground beef and bacon. I've had breakfast and lunch so far. And we're going to give Roseanne about 4 more minutes or 5 more minutes to reconnect. And what we'll do is, if she's unable to reconnect, is we'll reschedule this for another time, because I think Roseanne's got an extremely important story to share. She's got experience in life that I don't have, and I'm a lot older than her. But we don't give up on people just off the top, just because the internet demons got in the way. And I also want to let folks know that the Carnivore Cast episodes are now up on YouTube. So when you see Amber or I, when we had up on our story a new Carnivore Cast Instagram Live, know that within 2 or 3 days, it's going to be at the Carnivore Cast YouTube page. And when we're able to complete a full interview with Roseanne, I'll be uploading that to the Thankful Carnivore YouTube page. Okay, somebody just asked a question. How many t-shirt designs do we have? I haven't counted them. However many are up at the web store, which you can find at artlife.us. Hello, Chris Donahue, you fine individual. I appreciate you stopping in. Our guest, Roseanne O'Driscoll, we started off strong, but she got disconnected. And we're going to give her a few more minutes to try to get back here. But if she's not back here by about 15 or 16 after the hour, what we're going to do is I'm just going to get in touch with her, and we'll reschedule this interview and do it in its entirety. Because, as I said earlier, she's got, oh, here she is. She's back. She's back. She's back, waiting for her. Dun, dun, dun. She's back.
Sorry.
That's okay.
The internet where I live is really, really bad. So that's why I'm even in the sitting room. It was like the best place I could go. But
it's all right.
I'm back.
You're in Ireland. I'm in North Florida. This was a risk that you're just going to take just on distance sake. And you know, the digital demons are going to do what they do.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
You know what? If it happens again, we'll just reschedule it and try for another time when maybe your internet and mine's going to be more simpatico. But let's give it a shot. We've got some people here who are interested. And what was the last thing you heard me say before we got disconnected? Do you recall?
you were talking about just medication and how it was making, you know, us worse. And the funny thing is after a time you kind of become immune to it. It's the same as coffee or anything like that. But the doctors would say, "Oh, you just need to up it a bit. You know, you're," and rather than trying to take you down and get you off it, it was always, "We'll just increase the dose," and that's no way to be for the rest of your life.
No, I agree completely with that. And if you're on it long enough, once they max out the dose, then they start trying different combinations of antidepressants, and then they throw in mood stabilizers and other things. And all of it is, I genuinely believe they're just throwing crap up against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, or you just need to take this medication with this one, and then you'll be fine. So now you're on two medications instead of the initial one.
If you haven't seen it yet, and I'll encourage you, Roseanne, and everybody else, go to Dr. Paul Saladino's or Dr. Ken Berry's YouTube channels, and they did a most interesting talk where they, it was interesting and infuriating because they let it be known there are no clinical studies that show a deficit in serotonin has any causal relationship to depression. There are no studies to show that there is that relationship. But these SSRIs, what are they designed to do?
Increase serotonin. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no
So
point in being on them.
basically, I took meds and you took meds for many years that really are never going, even if they do what they're designed to do as far as increasing your serotonin, there's no evidence to show that's going to improve your mood in any way.
Yeah, and
Think
it didn't,
about
it's not
that.
like it made me happy, it just made me not cry. Like that was the difference. That was the only difference I noticed. Oh, I'm numb now and I won't cry, rather than anything else. Yeah.
I've talked to other people who've had similar experiences, and it didn't affect me that way. I was not a crying depressed person. I was an angry depressed person. So it kind of blunted my rough edges a little bit, but not enough to really. If you go look at my Facebook page, I call the old me Mr. Happy, and you can see the Mr. Happy faces through those years I was taking those pills, and it's not a pretty picture. But let's get back to you, Roseanne. Let's go back. You mentioned when you were talking, you mentioned the word shame. Now, was that from being bullied or verbal abuse, or was that something that you created yourself? Was that your own image of yourself? Because
It
this is
was
something we
both.
see a lot.
Yeah, no, it was both because I would be getting bullied, but then also I turn it back on myself. Like I deserve to be bullied. And the shame comes with it. It's the same reason why I don't like Weight Watchers or Slimming World or anything like that anymore, because all the foods that are technically quote unquote bad for you are called sins. So you're sinning when you're having something that isn't told is clinically healthy for you, and it just makes you feel bad for eating food. And I know carnivore eliminates all the junk food in the first place, but it's more the mentality around it. Like you
Sure.
shouldn't feel shame for eating anything. Like you need to eat. So if you feel shamed with eating, that leads to not eating, which led to anorexia. Um, so I just don't like the word shame at all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either. And it's so misused. And it's one of those other words that gets so abused away from its definition. It kind of boggles my mind. And it serves no positive purpose, in my opinion. Tell us about, okay, so you started having problems, you said, around at a very early age.
Yeah.
Give us through, you said starting around 8. Get us from 8 till say you through your 18, 20, you're right to where you get to early adulthood. What were you running into?
Okay, so I started off just trying all of the diets that I would come across in magazines and giving them a go, whether it was like, you know, more fruit in your porridge and like not eating after 6 and all these different things that they said. And then as I kind of got to 12, it became more of I'm going to hide food or I'm just not going to eat food. And then I do little things like tell my parents I'd be eating later, and then I might make toast and throw the toast away, but you'd have like crumbs and stuff on the plate. So you'd be like, oh, Matt, I had a sandwich or I had whatever. Um, and that's kind of what it was. When I was in school, I'd throw away all my lunches, so I wouldn't eat anything. And the only thing I'd have to have then when I came home was just a really small dinner, and I'd try and eat as little as possible. But the funny thing is the last year I had of school, rather than going to finish it, I wanted to move up to the city because I was 18. And I was there to myself, I don't have to do what we have is the leaving cert. I was like, I don't have to do it because I'd be 19, I can go now. But you can't get into any universities without it. So my mother convinced me to come back. But while I was away for the 3 months, I kind of had like my college years kind of like earlier on, and I started eating because I was just happy to be away from the environment. So I started
Hmm.
eating everything that was around me and getting takeaways and all this stuff. And I was only away for 3 months, but I genuinely thought that the washing machine was shrinking my clothes because they were just shrinking. Like I gained so much weight so fast because there was finally no shame around eating, or I didn't feel watched when I was in school and different things like that. And I was just away from all the bullying. So I got happy, and then I just like ate to make up for all of the years that I wasn't eating, and then
Wow.
I gained all that weight back.
So
Yeah.
you were kind of set up from a whole set of different psychological areas to just once that freedom from all of that negativity, you just kind of went nuts and enjoyed every flavor you ever wanted to enjoy with zero guilt.
Yeah, and it was all the shame foods as well, like all the takeaways and the chocolate and everything that you're made feel bad. Like I wasn't eating healthy because that was the only kind of food I was having beforehand. So now I was like, let me have everything without nobody watching me. There's no
Wow.
shame anymore. Yeah. And then I just ate.
Okay, so take us through the process. How does one decide to become vegan? Because I find this, to me, that's the most curious thing. You're the very first person I've ever spoken to who's ever dabbled in veganism in any way. And you didn't dabble in it, you were neck deep in it for 7 years.
Yeah, I find that strange that you've never met a vegan or talked to one before, because I know it's still like not main like the main diet, but there's and I never thought Ireland would have more vegans than anywhere else because we're so country and farming and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. But I started off by just watching a program called Earthlings, and I saw all the horrible stuff that's done to animals, which is true because there's horrible things done to humans and there's horrible things done to animals, and it's just more like that's why I try to do more organic or grass fed or something like that because it makes me feel a bit better that they got treated better. But I just
Sure.
got so upset at I like, but I could it could be the same if you're watching the news now and saw like a war going on or something sad happening somewhere. You'd feel really bad for those people. So I ended up feeling really bad for the animals, and then I was told, sure, we don't need meat. We have all these other alternatives. Nothing was talked about health or anything like that. It was just more like there's other foods to eat, so why eat them? And then that's why I ended up going vegan for so long. And it was the hardest thing too. For the last 2 years, even though my health was so bad, I fought so much because I didn't want to be the reason that they were dying. But I just got so sick. And when I did try meat again, I was kind of hoping it wouldn't work. I was like, I'll do this, just so everyone can leave me alone. And then I was like, it won't work, and I'll have to figure out something else. But it worked. So um, I educated myself more and realized that the only way to kind of give them the land back and stuff like that is if we stop using it for all the crops and the vegetables and the stuff in the first place. And it's kind of like we need it and it's more of a natural cycle. So I was able to just make bring myself to eat the food again.
I think one of the greatest, well, there's a countless number of arguments against veganism that are valid, but I think one of the most profound ones is when you see that cutaway of the soil, when you have the grass, you see the length of the roots from the natural grasses that ruminant animals feed off of, and see that they descend into the earth, 10 and 20 feet or more. And then you see the root structures of these monocrops that we're using to ruin the topsoil across the planet. Not to mention these people that are ethically worried about how animals are treated. They don't grasp the fact that billions of small creatures are killed every year in the harvesting of those crops. But you see the root structure for corn only descends maybe at best 1.5 feet tops.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, later going on, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't
What
think about
what
this.
what's sustainable here? Tell me again. Tell me what's sustainable in real life. It's kind of mind-boggling, but we don't know what we don't know. I was like you were, I'm sure. I was taught to eat balanced, you know, little of this, you know, plenty of vegetables, some meat, you know, have your dairy, have your cereals, all this. We called it the standard American diet over here. I don't know what you called it in Ireland, but, and it's just proven to be this enormous fallacy and cause of human suffering. So we can always, you know, if I, at certain ages, I'm sure that I would have been open to other alternative forms of eating because I was suffering from inflammation I was unaware of, brain fog. I'm sure you have some experience with brain fog going from veganism to carnivore. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that was crazy because I didn't even think I suffered with brain fog or anything like that in the first place. So the mental clarity that I actually got, well, first getting off the antidepressants was major, and I didn't get that through carnivore. I got that through just adding meat back. So I had like meat and veg and all everything in my diet for about 4 months or so first before
Mm-hmm.
trying carnivore, but just by adding that stuff back in, that got rid of the antidepressants, and then I could actually focus more. I always just thought that I was a person that didn't really have a long attention span, you know, kind of like the modern stuff. I love watching stuff on YouTube rather than reading books and stuff. Like I prefer an audiobook. And I thought that was just the way that I was, rather than I was just lacking like being able to focus. So the meat gave me that, and it made me more logical. I'm still highly emotional, but it just made me to kind of detach just a tiny bit in some situations to judge it better rather than just react the whole time.
Certainly, you become a more responsive person rather than a reactive person. And I find that very much so for myself, too. I mean, even just, you know, the first 30 days into it, I mean, I was being transformed, and the calmness, the mental clarity, the ability to see obstacles that and see ways around the obstacles, whereas before, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This is devastating. I don't know how. And you know, the
Yeah.
anxiety would kick in. You wouldn't sleep at night because, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do about what in reality was a manageable situation, but we didn't have the mental clarity or the understanding.
That is me. Let's think of every situation that can possibly arise and have a plan for everything. And there'd be no sleeping some nights. There'd be like about 3 or 4 hours sleep because I'd be thinking too much. And
Now,
now I just sleep well. Yeah.
now when were you first diagnosed with depression?
Only a year and a half, about 2 years ago now. Because I just always thought I had, you know, more sad days and good days. I never actually went about seeing anything, mainly because I didn't want to be put on any medication at all in the first place. I've always been anti-medication and like
Mm-hmm.
use herbs or, you know, eat a bit better or exercise rather than go get medication. So I just stayed away completely. But it got so bad because I really was at a place where I thought the whole world would be better off without me. And I have like it's funny. I have a cat and he needs medicine because he's the only cat probably in the world allergic to pollen, but he needs to
Oh
get it
dear.
every day. And I just don't trust anyone to look after him well enough. So even when I got really depressed and I was like, everyone in the world would be better off without me, I was like, no, I have to stay. As long as he's alive, I have to give him his medicine. And that kind of kept me more grounded. And then I realized, no, this is too bad. I have to go to the doctor. And then she had me on the medication for about a year and a half. So I wasn't on it as long as you, but I
Right,
was still on
right.
it. But I could have done it with stuff years earlier, like in my teens is when I really needed it, but I just didn't go about it.
So did you titrate off with your doctor's blessing, or did you just start feeling better and did it on your own?
Oh, I did it by myself. She was not
Okay.
happy. I just
No,
stopped. Yeah.
I'm sure. And I want to take a moment, and I'm not being critical of you because I did it myself too, but I had been studying my medicines for years, and I used to work in the field. So I had experience with helping people to titrate off meds and whatnot. And even then, you know, if you start doctoring yourself, you've got your doctor's an idiot at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't, number one, we don't give out medical advice, and we don't recommend that you titrate off any psychiatric medication without the help and assistance of your doctor, because it can be very dangerous. You can cause yourself to have seizures. You can cause yourself to have some serious mental issues that you didn't anticipate, depending on how long you've been taking it. So with that said,
Oh yeah, I did have a week where my body I got a little sadder because I had taken them. Like I did have a response from going from 20 milligrams to like nothing.
Hmm.
But I didn't do any research. So yeah, it's really good people do their research. I did nothing. All I made sure was that they weren't tested on animals.
Yeah,
Um, that was it.
a lot of people think, oh, antidepressants, well, I could just start taking one tomorrow and everything will be okay. No, it doesn't really work that way.
No.
It can take weeks or a month. Now, for some people, there's a quick response, but for most folks, that's not the case, it seems. So
Yeah.
just keep those little factoids in mind as you listen to this, and this definitely falls under the don't try that if you don't have to kind of thing, because it's really dangerous. But so you made the transition, you started feeling better when you included me,
Yeah.
and then you felt your depression symptoms improve. That's awesome. So take us to where you got the notion about carnivore, what intrigued you about it, what made you curious.
Well, I started off just looking into the ketogenic diet and fats first, and I really tried to do that vegan, but that it was just next to impossible to do vegan because you can because when you're looking for protein, it all comes from the beans and different things like that, and your carbs get way too high. So it's just next to
You
impossible.
cannot
Yeah.
eat enough due to bioavailability. The nutrition that's in all these foods, these plant foods, our bodies aren't designed to process and absorb it.
Yeah, so
So
when you break it down, you get next to nothing. Yeah.
so you have to eat a ton of it not to starve to death.
Yeah, so I was watching oh names now I get so bad. I did start watching Sean Baker and Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson, but there's one who's the main keto doctor again. I can't remember his name.
Kim Berry, Dr. Kim Berry,
I
gosh,
know.
there's a bunch of keto doctors. I can't, Dr.
Berg,
Wrigley,
Dr. Berg?
who?
Berg? Is there a Berg?
There might be. There may be somebody that I'm not aware of
I
because
think
there's
there
new doctors coming out all the time, and people are like, don't you know about this one?" I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I don't have a list.
All right, but I watched loads of his stuff just talking about fats and the mental health and things like that. And when
Hmm.
I couldn't do it then with the vegan because I was having a really bad reaction to greens and nuts, I was like, there's no other choice. And my body was really craving beef and eggs. Like, and I hate eggs. So for my body to be craving something that I really dislike the taste of, I was like, there has to be something in there that the body needs. But I fought it for as long as I could, and then I just decided, okay, look, I'll just put back beef and eggs, but just enough. That was the thing. I'll do this whole keto thing and have just enough of those. And when I had them, I just felt so much better. And then I was like, okay, there's definitely something to red meat and eggs. And I kept researching, and it was Michaela Peterson really that her reaction to soy. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to give the keto or the carnivore thing a go. So
That's
I stayed
awesome.
with it here. Yeah.
That's very similar. Michaela told her dad, and her dad went on Rogan. That's how I found out about it.
Yeah, I
So
found out from her over him as well. Yeah.
and then the very next, because my jaw's on the floor, I'm like, if it had been anybody but somebody with the integrity of Dr. Jordan Peterson, I would have probably just laughed and changed the channel. We wouldn't be having this conversation. There'd be no Carnivore. None of that would have occurred. The last year would have never happened this way because I would be oblivious that the carnivore way of eating was even existed. So we're so blessed to learn about these things at all.
Yeah, that's why I say like we should always share our story because we watch other people, so someone's going to be watching us. Like we don't need a like we don't need to go on Joe Rogan. We can just
Exactly.
anything to help somebody. Yeah.
And never underestimate the power of your own experience in a story form. They're just amazing. Somebody's asking a really great question that you can answer, Roseanne. Somebody's saying, as a recovering anorexic, this may seem silly. Is there a major difference between keto and carnivore? You can answer that from your experience, and then I'll give them an answer from mine. Go ahead.
Well, for me, the main thing was when I did keto, the fats were too high for me. So when I got to the 80%, I would feel really tired and sluggish. And because I was getting most of my fats from peanut butter and things like that as well, it was really ruining my gut health. And then when I went over and I tried carnivore, so I got rid of like the only thing I was really having was nuts, coconut oil, and greens. But once I got rid of them, my digestion got so much better. And because I was having more meat, the protein went up and the fat went down. So I got energy rather than feeling tired and sick. So that was the main difference for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. See, it's something I was saying while you were disconnected to kind of fill in the time while we wait for you to get back. People need to understand carnivory, the carnivore way of eating, is just another ketogenic way of eating because you're not consuming carbs. So your body's only burning fat. You're almost always in a state of ketosis at least once or twice, if not all day long. So your brain is burning ketones instead of glucose, and your heart's burning ketones instead of glucose, which it's a preferred fuel. And it's just a healthier way. It's a healthier state of being, as Dr. Kim Berry describes it. And a lot of people miss that. Carnivore, that's crazy. No,
I
it's
think
just
people love labels, so they love the fact that there's percentages. So there's a percentage in the keto diet. You're looking for the 85 and the 15s and the, less than 5% carbs and all this kind of stuff. So they make the distinction between it when you're right, carnivore is the exact same as keto because the main thing is no carbs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No sugar, no plants, no carbs. It's that
Yeah.
simple. And that's one of the primary components of a keto diet is you want to cut all those unnecessary sugars out, which, let's face it, they're all unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unless you're a type 1 diabetic, you don't need to eat any sugar. Somebody's asking, would you recommend going keto for a period before carnivore? If so, how would you recommend making the transition? Okay, I'll take this one, and then you could share what your experience is like because we want to get into your carnivore experience.
Yeah.
I always recommend people do keto, low carb, high fat for at least 30 days before they jump into carnivore because people seem to have an easier time with the adaptation phase, and which can be extremely uncomfortable depending on how sick you are when you start, how long you've been eating the standard American diet, what your level of toxicity is, how long you've been sick. It's always specific to the individual. But people seem to do better if they're low carb first. I had an easy time because I was low carb for 3.5 years before I started. So I can't be your rule of thumb if you're somebody who's going from the standard American diet. You're going to have a hard adaptation, will be uncomfortable, but it's doable. What was your experience like when you made the transition? How low carb were you when you started, if at all? And share what you can about that.
Well, what I did is I actually kind of tested it out for 2 weeks first. So I started reducing my carbs down and I was having like anywhere from about 50 to 70 grams of carbs a day. But then my birthday came and I just went like carb crazy because we went out and I felt so sick. So by the time the 1st of July came around, I was just delighted to go absolutely from a really high carb down to really low. I just went cold turkey on all of it and I felt great. But I think it has to do with more of your mentality. If you're a type of person that can taper it down, I think that's good because you can prevent a lot of, like migraines and stuff from reducing your carbs and things like that. But if you're a type of person that a small bit of carbs leads to a lot of carbs, I would say just go cold turkey and it'll only be a couple of days of misery, but you'll get out once the sugar leaves your system. You'll be fine then because I was good with it after about 5 days. So it depends. If you can do it the way you did it for a while, going lower and lower and lower carb and out, I think you'll get rid of, the headaches won't be so bad and stuff like that. So it's all up to your own behavior around food.
I would agree with that. A lot of this is all because we don't have any studies, and there's not going to be studies done on this. Nobody's going to spend the money. Big Food's not going to spend the money to do out a study that's going to put them out of business. And they kind of control the research money right now, unfortunately. So, and then you stop and look at what a real controlled study would take, who's going to volunteer to have somebody live in their house with them for the next 30 years, documenting everything they put in their mouth? We're just not going to have studies on those kinds of things. So a lot of this that we're learning about is anecdotal from our own N=1 experiences. Yeah. And I think we make a great contrast here. A year in, and somebody who's just about to cross the 1 month threshold. So, what have you noticed that's changed that you didn't expect as a carnivore?
That I didn't expect. Well, I was hoping the inflammation would go away, and that did. I wasn't expecting the better sleep, and I wasn't expecting to be more of a calm in certain situations. I don't know. I think it's still too new to say that there's stuff. I heard you talk about your eyesight, and I'm starting to notice that, once I'm 31 now, so things are getting that little bit harder to read at a distance, and I'm hoping that the carnivore will help me with that as well, because I like glasses, but I don't want to actually have glasses, so I'm hoping.
Yeah, that was mind-boggling. That was not something I would have thought would happen in a million years. And I go get my driver's license renewed. I have my glasses with me to read the line that you have to be able to read. And the lady said, "Sir, you'll need to do it without your glasses." And I could read it perfectly. My wife is standing there. Her eyes are like this. My jaw drops. And then the lady at the DMV was so kind. She allowed me to take a picture of her screen because she had my old driver's license picture there side by side with my new, which you can see on my Instagram page. And there's a minor little difference from 8 years ago to now. You just don't expect these things. And of course, you had the good fortune at age 31, you hadn't started falling apart, let's say.
Oh, well, I was, inflammation was my main thing. So like my knees, my fingers, my toes and stuff, even though I'm only 31, they were probably so inflamed from all of the plants that I would have been having on the vegan diet and all the nuts and stuff like that. So I did have an awful lot of inflammation, especially in like my fingers. So I was finding it harder to start gripping things when I would be inside in the gym, like the pull-up bars and stuff like that. And I was like, what's going on? Why are they so bad? I didn't know. And now they're not. Like that's the main thing for me, that they're not sore and my knees aren't as sore anymore. So I'm delighted with that. Never mind anything else. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I want to assure you of is that 28 days in, you've barely scratched the surface of what's possible. And when I was at your stage, I can remember watching people on Facebook. There's this group that I'm a member of called Zeroing In on Health. That's where I learned how to do carnivory. You got people there who've been living this way for more than 10 years. And so I was blessed to learn about it, and I would read people struggling, people in my stage, your stage, or they were having a hard time or they were doing well. And you'd see somebody that was 1 year or 2 years and you were just so jealous. I want to feel like he does right now. And that's one of the things people run into is they won't be patient and give their bodies a chance to recover.
Or you think you need something. Like I always was like, I'd love chocolate after my dinner, and I was like, I'll never be able to give that up. And you realize then it's actually just a habit, because after the first 2 weeks, I was like, I don't need chocolate now. Like even if it was to come back into my life, I wouldn't have it every single day after dinner. Well, before it was like, I have to have the chocolate. Yeah.
Congratulations, Barefoot Carnivore. They said they're having their 3-month carniversary today. That's great. 3 months in, a lifetime to go. Good for you. That's incredible. So 28 days in, is this something that do you see yourself living this way now? For me, there's no doubt. I cannot risk my sanity.
Yeah.
I go back to eating garbage. I don't just affect me. I destroy my wife's life at the same time. And it would just be horribly selfish of me. So there's just no, it's meat and water from now until as long as I'm on this side of the grass. Have you thought that far yet?
I have. So I know you're against it, but for YouTube, I'm doing a whole day of having carbs and stuff again on the 1st of August, mainly to see how I react. But I'm actually quite scared because I think I'm going to have a bad reaction. I just have that feeling now where I'm kind of like, I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm the type of person that will still go ahead and do it to just see how I react. But just moving forward, I think really, I kind of I still have my brain around having something for my birthday and having something for Christmas. They're like my 2 days. But I'm even thinking of just making them keto now and always like sticking with carnivore as many days as possible, but to still, with the eating disorder and stuff too, I stopped myself from going out and having fun. And there's a lot of memories that could have been great that I lost. And I still feel like maybe, having a keto cheesecake on my partner's birthday or something like that, just a small bit. But I'm going to see how my body reacts, because if I'm emotionally better doing carnivore, like I know I'll eventually just give them up. They won't be worth it. I'll be like you, but I'll test myself to see.
Some people have to learn through pain,
Yeah.
and it's not a question of me agreeing or disagreeing. You're scared. I'm scared for you, because I've not experienced that, because I paid attention to what Michaela said when she said, because she kept experimenting. After she got all her depression symptoms went away and her arthritis symptoms went away, she kept experimenting. She wanted to find out see if she could figure out what foods it was specifically. And in the process, she lost her happiness, her joy, and then she reclaimed some of it a few months later, but she said I was more like happy like a wolf. And it's just been here in the last few months that she's regained that joyful, buoyant, smile on her face, in her eyes all the time kind of thing that you see if you watch her media now. It's obvious she's a very happy human being. It's obvious looking at you that you're a happy person. You've got a very pleasant affect. Your eyes radiate joy. And as somebody who was depressed for over 40 years and who's been free of those symptoms, I noticed those things. Just first thing, somebody's eyes. Somebody says they had depression, first thing I do is look at their eyes. And then and then their affect, and you can usually tell whether they're being truthful or not. Because depression's hard to hide. It's almost impossible to hide if you've got any observational skills about you.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely a person that learns everything the hard way. So, like I said, fingers crossed for the first. But I don't really see myself going back to carbs, to be honest.
Well,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to set up some kind of fail-safe that if you do go through with your experiment, that there's a net there to catch you so you don't crash back through the rabbit hole that you crawled out of. Because that's the other thing that frightens me. Not just for you, but for anybody. It could be you, it could be a guy, a girl, a woman, any age, doesn't matter. There's a risk. Now, for me, see, my wife, she's carnivore. She's a month behind me. She eats differently. She eats different things than I do. It's always specific to the individual. She can eat things I wouldn't dare. She can handle onions. I wouldn't risk an onion for love nor money. But they don't bother her. And she doesn't have them but once in a while with meatloaf, like maybe once every couple of months. And she's even talking about now, well, maybe I don't really need those. But I think a lot of it is we don't really want to admit that we can't do what we want to do. Because I loved that ice cream. I loved that cereal. I loved that coconut cream pie. And I'm sure you loved your favorites too, immensely. Now, I don't miss them at all. I don't even think about them.
You see, I do miss them, and that's why I'm hoping they'll make me sick, and then I'll never miss them again. So I'm going into it with hoping to
one
feel
of the
back.
things that we see in zeroing in on health frequently is a lot of people need to have that experience. They need to have that, oh my gosh, they get hit with the full toxicity. There's no tolerance build up over a lifetime of, adolescence and all that to buffer you from the toxins. And some people need that for the light to completely go on and say, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, because when you look at it, then you'll be turned off. You go, nah, I don't want that. Rather than looking at it and going, oh, I remember how that tasted lovely. You'll just be like, yeah, that nearly killed me the last time. Like when if you used to drink, there's that one drink that when you smell it, you go, oh God. It'll be the same with the food. Once you see it, you'll be like, no.
It's been interesting for me Roseanne, because when I like go, I don't know how grocery stores are where you live, but here you literally have to go through the cereal aisle to get to the meat department in almost every grocery store. I don't know why they did it. So I smell this sweet, sugary smell, and it makes my stomach rumble in disgust, kind of like a warning, a natural warning. We don't want that. We don't need that. Just keep walking down the aisle of death until you're to the meat. It really, I don't like the smell of the old favorites. Do you still smell old favorites and go, that's pretty good?
Certain things, but not everything. Like I can look at some foods now and kind of go, oh God, I don't want that. You know, like especially fruit. I was never a vegetable person, but I loved all fruit. And now I can just look at it and go, I don't want that. Yeah, and it's the same for cereal, but I don't digest gluten, rye, and especially barley well. So I was able to learn to let go of that before even carnivore. But there's a few things that I'd smell now, like a pizza. That is pizza and
Oh,
donut.
I used to
Two.
live on
Awful.
pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, my 20s were spent on pizza and beer and McDonald's drive-through, quite literally. It was my 20s. And that didn't change a lot into my early 30s, unfortunately. But and you look at the worse my diet got, the worse my illness became.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And I think that's a lesson that we need. That's why these kind of interviews and these small audiences, they're so important, because we're getting the word out to people who otherwise wouldn't have a clue, that they don't know that something that they desperately need to know.
Yeah.
Oxalates in plants. Now, would any of our parents have encouraged us to eat leafy green vegetables if they had known about oxalates? Of course not. If they'd have known about phytates or lectins in nuts, of course not. They would have never let us. That would be akin to them letting us sip on bleach to get used to it. You know?
Yeah, and it's the other way around. Everyone's misinformed because when Lone Star Girl was on your podcast the last time, and she was saying when she was at the doctor's and it was all about have your oats and have your banana and things like that. So everyone just listens to it, and because the doctors say it or because the health board says it, they'll go for it, when we forget that everything is funded by research and different companies and all this kind of stuff. And we need to experiment more on ourselves and see how our bodies react. That's what I think. If you'll know yourself, because some people would have better gut health, so keto is fine for them. But for someone like me, my gut health is definitely really, really bad. And the carnivore is the best for me. So
Yeah, Amber Wentworth, who you referred to, Lone Star Keto Girl, she was suffering from a digestive problem that she thought was normal. She thought that was just what everybody went through. And it wasn't until she went carnivore, and she said, like, the second weekend, it went away. Whatever that issue was, all that discomfort went away.
but I think that's the same with the inflammation and the tiredness. Like you expect to just be that exhausted at the end of the day and to ache after whatever you did. And then you go on the carnivore diet and you realize, no, I've got loads of energy and my body isn't swollen. I feel fantastic. But we just don't ever know because we're just that unhealthy and sick.
And moving around for you, I noticed you do a lot of yoga and you do a lot of walking and stuff. Doesn't it feel good now to move
Yeah,
around, and you want to move around because you've got all this energy?
yeah, you
Has it
actually
made you
want.
more productive?
Yeah, oh, well, I actually stopped the gym, so I don't know how people would look at that as being productive, but I used to just force myself to do, it was something I had to do rather than I wanted to do. And I think
Hmm.
I was making my adrenals and everything worse because I was a weight hour doing weights every day and an hour doing cardio every day, and my weight kept
Oh,
going up and up. And now, like I said, I gave everything up. I just went back to yoga and started doing walking, and I lost a load of weight. So I think it was just I listened to my body and left it relax. And
you
maybe in a
you
couple
were
months.
you were in flight or fight mode there for a long time. Apparently, there's highly recommend, if you haven't seen it already. There's a lady, Kelly Hogan's her name. Just do a search for Kelly Hogan carnivore diet. She's been living this way for 9.5, almost 10 years. She carried 3 babies to term as carnivore. Incredibly powerful story. Her story. Matter of fact, as you were describing what you went through, it reminded me a great deal of her experience. And you might find watching what she has to say about it helpful. because it's also one different. There's a big difference for carnivore we find between men and women. Women respond differently to it than men do. And it's got to be hormonally related because a woman's hormones affect you all get affected by hormones in ways that we don't get affected by at all. I mean, your all's hormones get the least little bit out of whack, and there's been movies made about it. A guy gets like that, oh, he's just a whiny old guy, ignore him. Yeah, great website, mylowcarblife.com. That is an outstanding, along with meatheals.com and justmeat.co. Those are 3 excellent low-carb carnivore websites. Highly recommend. We got about 5 minutes left. I want to thank you so much for coming on, Roseanne. It seems like we only got to talk for 50 minutes due to the disconnect, but it seems like it's only been 5 because I feel like I've got 1,000 more questions I could ask you. But if there was one thing that you wanted to share with everybody about your experience, what the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you wanted to impart with everyone, what would that be?
I think the main thing is to not let anyone, we talked about shame and stuff, not like anyone to make you feel bad for what you're doing, because it took an awful lot for me to wrap my head around that I needed meat and to eat it. And I did get a huge backlash from anyone that I knew that was vegan, or even just random vegans on the internet. But from even people connecting to me that have never been vegan before, but they wanted to try carnivore, and they were getting teased by their family or their friends for being a bit weird for just having meat. It's like you to just forget about all that and just know you're doing it for yourself and for your health, and to just go for it. Like, give yourself a month. Don't start tomorrow and give yourself an entire month, and don't say, oh, I'll start when all the food is gone out of the house, or I'll start when the kids are back to school or whatever. No, you'll start straight away. You just say, just for a month. Tell yourself you can have everything you want next month if you want it, but just for 1 month I'm going to do it, and stay completely focused on it, and you'll feel so much better. You won't even want the things, and you won't even care about what the people say by the end of it. That's just all kind of anxiety and stuff that's at the start, and it'll be gone.
Yeah, the sugar cravings, they go away. They just go away.
And it's crazy, and you don't feel like hungry or that you need to eat all the time. Like when people were talking about doing 1 meal a day, I was like, oh, I can never do 1 meal a day. Now I genuinely only get hungry once a day and I have a massive meal. But before, I'd always be thinking, what's the next food? What's the next meal? What can I have? And it's crazy to think that you can go about your life and focus and not worry about any of that stuff because you're properly fueling it, and it just doesn't get hungry until it needs fuel again.
I agree completely. Somebody they mentioned it's My Zero Carb Life is that website for Kelly Hogan. Thanks for that correction, and I'm sorry I didn't catch it. Right, I'm watching the time. I'm listening to my guests, and I'm trying to think of the next thing to ask. So I don't catch everything. This darn fallible humanity thing, it really gets in the way. Listen, I want to thank you so much, Roseanne, for coming on. This will be up for 24 hours here on Instagram, and then Tuesday it'll get posted to my to Thankful Carnivore on YouTube. And
thank you for having me, by the way. Yeah, so
it's a thrill. Soon as I started watching you on Instagram, I thought, this is something that we just don't really get to see, is somebody, an ex-vegan at the very beginning of their carnivore experience. And there's, again, I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of so many subjects. And I hope maybe in the future we can have you back on and just to give other people an idea, because you have perspectives that I can never have, that I think are important for people to know about.
Oh yeah, I love this. I can't believe it's almost over. So when you said there was only 5 minutes left, I was like, no, there's not. There's loads more. We can do another one.
Well, listen, I want to encourage everybody here to always share your stories with other people. You don't have to be out in front and on camera like we are. It could maybe be in your local church or synagogue, or at your local grocery store bulletin board. It could be anything. Share your experience. Somebody's asking, how old am I? I am 58 years old, and I am on 0 pharmaceutical medications, and I am so happy. Thank you, Roseanne. Thank you, everybody in chat who came along and participated. Have a blessed day, and always remember, it's important to be thankful.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.